Springboard, Education Cross Border Springboard Springtalk. So we're really excited to have you guys here as our first panelists for EAB. Luke and Sarah are presenting today. They're really excited and also a little nervous since they're the first ones who are taking the leap. Maybe they're not now. They're totally cool, confident cucumbers over here. So again, thanks for coming, and I know that they'll do their own introductions as well, but we really, really appreciate you guys being here and taking the time today to support our efforts and our presentations. I think all of us sort of see, but if we could, give some written feedback for Luke and Sarah as they present, that would be really, really great and helpful and beneficial for them. So without further ado, with further ado. It's okay. Come on. You can take a seat around. Yeah, you can do it. So that is you. All right, cool. Luke is all you.
To repeat Ms. Tyson, thank you all for coming. It means a lot that I'm able to share my work with you. It's a wonderful opportunity. So I'm going to be talking about the profession of teaching and sort of what that means in terms of global education. So what do teachers do? Education has a profound and incredibly noticeable effect on the community in which it takes place. And there are discrepancies between sort of a good and bad education. And that can be reflected within the community almost immediately. And Myers suggests here that a teacher is going to be able to bear the most influence in that system. And she says instruction has the ability to alter the course of an individual. So my work and research that I've been doing currently in education across borders is completely different than I was at the beginning of the year. I originally wanted to look at two educational systems, being Finland and the United States, to kind of compare them. And I was going to focus on K through 12th grade, excluding higher level institutions because I thought socialism was too big of an advantage. I think I have another turn. Yeah, and I chose that topic because I actually went to 4th grade in a school in Finland called Makala, which translates into preschool. And it's in Espoo, which is Helsinki, just the suburb just west of Helsinki. A very consolidated statement of what I discovered can be said with less being more during that specific year than I was there. Primary students with homework and studying does not necessarily yield the best results. I noticed immediately and personally, even at that age, the differences between my two public school educations. The other being in the States. In Finland, we had no tests. I called my instructor by her first name. She was incredibly respected. Me and my peers had close to 2 hours a day to eat and play, with breaks between lessons in order to sort of decompress. And the food was not bad either. In the US, I remember being always rooted in my seat, like hours on end, 30 minutes for lunch and play, which is not the greatest. Perhaps the most important thing I picked up on in Finland was phenomenon teaching, and that's how I understood it at that time. Some people call it phenomenon-based learning, which is it comprises of beliefs and best practices that are supported by ongoing research. There are no really strict rules in phenomenon-based teaching. It's sort of letting the kids go on their own and do their own thing. It has an integral focus on interdisciplinary studies and learning from experience. Instead of being traditionally taught in subjects, phenomenon teaching teaches units, which will be comprised of 2 or 3 subjects, but focused on one bigger picture idea. And that's in contrast to the standardized testing model, which I will be representing as the US. That focuses on narrow-minded memorization of one specific topic, and better test scores means more fun. So with all of that in mind, I really thought that something had to be at the middle of this. So I had all this information, and I needed to go somewhere. I decided to look more specifically at teachers. And I'm calling teaching a profession. Obviously, because what is a profession? I can define a profession by saying it's an occupation that is skill-based on abstract knowledge, it requires training and education, certification, formal organization, and adherence to a code of conduct and altruistic service. Teaching meets and surpasses all of these categories, so I will be calling it a profession for the remainder of this. As a profession, teaching has unique responsibilities to fulfill. First and foremost, the insurance and growth of the most important, readily available resource of any nation, being the children. Instructions most importantly affect the health of many young people. Teaching is also the first line of change, whether that is in a specific community, in an individual, or on a much broader scale. With proper regard for students, the best pupils can be challenged and those falling behind can be aided and helped. Changing the simplest state of existence will in turn lead to long-term progress. So the ideology of education plays somewhat of a strange role in my topic, but that doesn't make it any the less relevant. So we can define an ideology as sort of a modern day pseudo-philosophy of sorts. It's a process of constructing stereotypes that are supported by social institutions, and those become multifarious when we look at a global stage. So education is different all over the world, is essentially what I'm saying. For example, I would say the ideology of education in the United States would be to produce college professors, seeing as that's where education culminates here. But on a much grander scale, I think the overall ideology of education is to further the human race intellectually and produce effective members of society with everything capable. One of perhaps the most important jobs of a teacher is to instill a proper sense of character and morality in their students. So they're kind of like a parent in that regard. They both, parents and teachers both have the same goals. They, again, I'll say care for the youth, which I will not be emphasizing enough, but it is very important. That's more than a responsibility, that's more than an occupation, that's like sort of a mission. Teachers charge and lead a child into a happy and fruitful life. School is meant to be fun, and teachers are meant to support that fun. Children who enjoy their time in school will take it with them for the rest of their life. Everything that they are for the rest of their life. Building work ethic, I think work ethic can only be taught. I think that's the only way it's obtained. So if you start building work ethic in someone very young, they'll carry on. And they'll do well in whatever they choose to do, because hard work doesn't pay off. So teaching and ultimately education have international goals that they are all trying to achieve. The first being the production of social and well-off citizens of the world. Teachers need to prepare students for any future that they may find themselves pursuing. Another big picture idea is to create and standardize education, free for all and available to anyone who wants to get it. So I have eliminating gender disparities up here, but it's been too long. That argument is silly. Men and women are equal. Let's show that in education. I think that's all I wanted to say. And lastly, literacy, numeracy, and essential life skills should not just be a byproduct of education, but they should be the focus, especially early on. I think those are more than necessary for anyone. All right. So our research for this project was meant to tie into some sort of action project. So we're going to research and then do something with the research. This was my innovation. I couldn't tear this one on. I had all this great research and I was very interested in it, but I had nothing to do, and probably still don't. So I wanted to create something meaningful, but I again had no way to express my doing. I just opted to talk to teachers around campus to see what they had to say to handle some of the questions. Almost every answer I got was you. Actually, maybe Mr. Paxton. My question is focused on what teachers do, why they do it, do they like doing it, and do they feel appreciated? What I collected from these interviews was this massive information, all of it good and substantive. I still want to do something like this. This was not just a topic to complete for this project, but I have to study everything I've talked about further. So this might even be what I take in life, but I'm young, but I can't. So these are the questions that I asked a few teachers around campus. I'm just going to talk about probably 4 answers. So actually, Mr. Patterson emphasized teaching skills that are transferable to college and throughout life. When I asked him what he wanted to do for his students, as to say, what did he want them to take with them for the rest of their lives, he responded, and I quote, "If we are not continually asking ourselves that question, if we do not ask ourselves that question every class and every day, then we're missing the point." Mr. Bell offered me great insight into the joys of what he does, how he's been at school for 35 years, teaching and coaching, and how every day brings new joys. Further enjoyment. I found it interesting how coaching is brought up here, because coaching is sort of like a physical teaching, or teaching is like mental coaching. And Mr. Riley gave me great insight into 2 different teaching situations here at Mercersburg, and then at school in inner city Baltimore. And the appreciation complex, as he understood it, was very different in those 2 settings. Here, he felt appreciated by almost every member of the community. And when he was teaching in the inner city, that wasn't really the case. He felt he was more appreciated by the families of students instead of the students themselves. So like the parents were very appreciative of what the teacher was doing for their child. And that's interesting, because that made me wonder about the ambitions of the individual and then the goals of the family. And Mr. Grady shared the importance of staying connected with former students, elaborating that he didn't want to say that teachers are just teachers for a year or so. They're really mentors for life, and he really is. He thinks it's amazing to see what former students do with the education that they have received. And those are just a few answers that I've covered. I think that's going to wrap me up here. I want to thank Springboard for allowing me to facilitate a research project for me. And Ms. Dyson, thank you so much. You're amazing and incredibly energetic, and some of my inspiration from this project this year. So I guess I'll see where I end up with all of this. And I'm required to bore you with sources. Yes, just one.
What grade were you in when you were in Finland?
4th grade.
And it was just for 1 year? Terrific. Do you wish you could go back? If you had to do it all over again, would you like to have your education in Finland?
I would say 2 more years. I can't think of one bad part about when I was in it. It was all great. I was in an international school, so it's kind of the same demographics as here. Like international kids all over the place, different kinds of backgrounds, and it's great.
Do you feel, in comparison with Finland, does their higher education continue the same sort of Montessori philosophy of education?
In Finland?
In Finland?
I'm actually not sure. I didn't look at their higher education.
4th grade level.
But
When we think about international educational standards and standardization of perhaps international teaching, oftentimes we're confronted with the problem that the availability of people who have an education which far surpasses their students is actually problematic, and then the implementation not only of the standards but of the delivery of content. Did you look much into sort of that issue?
to kind of summarize, you're asking about education of teachers and how that outweighs sort of the level of their students?
So, yeah, because if you're going to internationalize sort of a standard, then you have to educate teachers, and oftentimes educated teachers are at a shortage, particularly in rural areas. So,
That's true.
did you look into that? I mean,
Not really. I actually left out education of educators because that was just a big thing to look at. But when I was looking at Finland, I briefly tracked over that, and they're all incredibly good. They all have masters in that.
right.
Even kindergarten teachers. Ms. Howard.
After all of your interviews, is there a theme or something that sort of comes to the surface from all of that? Or a common idea?
If I were to identify the personality of all the teachers that I interviewed, I would say they're all helpers. They all want to do something for other people. Yeah, that's their goal. They're very selfless, and it's incredibly admirable.
Do you have a sense of the difference in which teachers are held in esteem in Finland versus the United States? In other words, how prestigious of a position of a profession is it in Finland compared to the US?
In Finland, it's like being a bright surgeon. It's being a teacher. So it's incredible. And that's on every business. Pay, respect from society.
You made a quick comment as we were going through one of your slides about gender equality in education.
Yeah.
You said that was something that we don't necessarily, and I'm paraphrasing here, that's kind of something that's already been achieved, or kind of.
I still wanted to emphasize how it was achieved, because those were international goals. They may be happening now or have already happened.
But especially internationally, I mean, internationally, what are our signs that we have achieved in gender equality when it comes to education? And there's still parts of our world where that is a deep, deep disparity and things like that.
And that's when I'll say in progress. I don't have the list. Good question.
In this whole thing, was there something that stands out for you that, one thing that our school could do better?
Our school could be doing better.
I don't think that was really your quest, but
Yeah, you're asking me to say this from Miss Rutherford right now. No, I think our school does a very good job of, accepting teachers and giving them sort of this autonomy and letting them do what they want to do. I don't know about other students here, but I respect every one of my teachers, and I say that to most every class. Here I think it's a pretty good system.
so we're doing that well.
Yeah, I really
From you.
I'll give this a go. Anything you would have done differently, or you wish you would have done?
Yeah, I wish I would have had like a solid action project plan, something amazing that I could have done, but I just talked to teachers, but that was, I still got, I think I got good information from it. I wanted to.
Do you see yourself possibly becoming a teacher?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, I'm very interested in that.
What grade do you want to teach? What level?
About that.
Little ones? Little ones? Or do you see
Every
yourself?
little kids.
Absolutely, my kids like you.
My kids like you.